Do you want to learn how to draw any kind of background you imagine, even if you've never drawn it before? Hi, my name is Oyun Orka, a VTuber who tries to draw, and I draw backgrounds pretty frequently in my own work. However, many times it's the first time that I draw a background of that specific type. So, how do I do it? Essentially, I try to break it down into a simple process: plan, reference, and create. Now, while I'm presenting this as a linear process, in reality, it's more like a cycle. As you plan something to add, you'll find some more references, then create, then as you create, you might plan more things that you can add and go through the cycle again. But either way, I'll try to walk you through the process, starting with the first step, planning. So to start off, you'll need somewhere to collect your ideas visually. This could just be another file or canvas, but if you want something more organized, I recommend trying Milanote, the sponsor of today's video. Milanote is a tool for organizing your creative projects. You can create visual boards with notes, images, colors, and more, nest boards within each other, sketch or draw directly on the board, and so much more. We can use it to start out our planning process. I started by listing out possible background or illustration ideas on a text card, and once I have a list, I'll bold the ones that I like. After I pick out a few that I like, I make new boards by just clicking and dragging the board icon. These create nested boards within the main board that we're currently on. A feature that I really like is how it automatically picks out a relevant icon based on the name too to make it visually recognizable. Within each of those boards, I want to elaborate a little bit more on the idea as I plan out what it could look like before I even start drawing. This is where I can move into stage 2, which is reference. So this is where I start to collect a variety of references, and because of the title of this board, Milanote automatically suggests photos relevant to the title, in this case lighthouses, and I can add them quickly here too. I drag some photos that I like onto the board here, which creates these cards, and for more photos, I'll go ahead and look on Unsplash for a few more references. After that, I use the draw feature to roughly sketch out some thumbnails right on the board, make some notes, and we finished our board. After that, I repeat basically the same thing for the winter forest board, once again finding some possible reference images, sketching out some ideas, and then writing down some further notes. For the cabin board, as I collect photo references, I realize that I have two main ideas here, a cabin during the day and a cabin during night. In Milanote, you can group objects by making a column and then dragging your cards there in order to separate different ideas or thoughts. I split up some photos here, and then after I do so, I'll draw thumbnails for each side. And we finish this board too. Finally, for the last idea, I collect references around a fishing boat, finding photos, and sketch thumbnails. As I sketch thumbnails, I also have ideas for what colors I want to use primarily in the drawing, so I can add that by clicking these 3 dots, then clicking and dragging colors onto the board. I go back and add a few colors for the other boards, and we're done with our reference boards. If you're following along, you don't necessarily need to brainstorm this many ideas, but Milanote is a great tool for collecting references and all sorts of ideas all in one place. If you want to draw any background, I think the most important thing is to find and collect a variety of references. Having all of this in one spot through Milanote makes it easy to go back and forth between planning and referencing without losing track of anything. It's helpful to keep your references visually close to your canvas, whether that be having it as another tab, on another screen, or even as a screenshot on the same canvas in the corner. So if you want to try it out for yourself, Milanote is available for free with no time limit. Sign up using the link in the description and start your next creative project. After quickly reviewing all 4 of the boards, I decide to go with the fishing boat idea. So now, let's start to create. So I'll go ahead and screenshot my board, open up any other references, and start drawing it in Clip Studio Paint based on one of my thumbnails that I did in Milanote. While I sketch the background, it's also helpful to generally think about perspective. You don't necessarily need to understand every single aspect of perspective in order to draw any background, but generally, you should try to establish or at least have in mind where the horizon line is. You also need to understand that if you draw a box around any objects, the vanishing lines of that box should end at the horizon line, and nearer objects appear larger, while further objects will appear smaller. If you don't know where at all to start, here's a quick guide to what 1, 2, and 3-point perspective could look like, but also, if you're using Clip Studio Paint, you can use 3D models not only as reference for the drawing itself, but use that for perspective grids too. Here, I'm using the 3D fishing boat model, which I'll link in the description down below. After I bring the boat onto the canvas, I'll go ahead and sketch the character quickly, since because this illustration is still character focused, I want to ensure the character is drawn nicely and at the angle that I want. Then, once I finish, I'll further adjust the perspective and positioning of the 3D boat, and then when I click on this ruler button on the 3D boat layer, it'll enable the perspective grid to be visible. Now we have a perspective grid that perfectly matches the 3D boat. By default, it'll turn it on to be visible in the same folder only, so if you don't want to always draw on the ruler or grid, you can just disable it or drag the grid into a different folder. Once I've established the perspective grid, I'll fix the sketch further, block in some values, and start by drawing the character. Some people draw the background first and then the character, and sometimes I also do the same, but do whatever works best for you. In this case, I'll draw the character first. After I finish the character drawing, I realize since the scene is on a beach, I want more photo references of the beach or an ocean, so I go back to my Milanote board and search for more references. Once that's added, I'll go ahead and draw in the ocean, use a rough crayon brush to block in where I want seafoam, adjust the size smaller to erase from it, and then finish up drawing the ocean. I'll also roughly add the sky as well. Next, as I render the boat, I constantly zoom in and out of the different pictures that I've collected of boats from earlier, and as I do so, I realize that I want even more specific references, specifically for a rowboat. If you're ever looking for a specific object and can't find the exact photo or angle you're looking for, try checking out Sketchfab. You can browse for a variety of 3D objects, and when you click on any object, the 3D preview here allows you to rotate around a model however you like, and get a better understanding of what something looks like at a certain angle. I'll finish up rendering the boat, adding textures and colors based off of what I'm seeing. This is essentially all done through observing and referencing the photos that I've collected, which is why when drawing backgrounds, it's so important to collect a variety of references and to rotate between plan, reference, and creating stages. Whenever I draw backgrounds, I try to reference elements that I like from photos that I'm referencing. For example, in this photo here, the boat looks a little bit worn, so I try to reflect that in the drawing by adding a red painted stripe, then erasing some small sections from it to give it a little bit of a chipped paint look, showing the wear and tear of the boat. Next, I render in the clouds and then the shading, also based off of photo references. Even though I don't have an exact reference of this exact lighting or pose, the fun of drawing and using references is adding your own twists to it. For example, in this photo of a boat on a sunny day, I really love the lighting and colors here, so I try to pull some of those colors and vibes into the shading on the boat and character in my own illustration. So even though I don't have an exact reference of this exact lighting scenario, I'm using colors from a photo that I like. And after adding some final finishing touches to the lighting and shading, we're done. So by doing a constant cycle of planning, referencing, and creating, we were able to go from an idea to an ever-expanding idea board to our final illustration. And that's it. Thank you for watching, and I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, I would appreciate if you give this video a like, and subscribe if you'd like to see more from my channel. Also, if you want to learn how to draw natural scenery in specific, check out the video linked on screen here. I'll see you next time. Bye bye!